Hey, happy New Year's to everybody. Welcome back to VIOC in action. Oh my goodness, this is 2020. Yes, I give thanks to the Most High. This is 2020, and we are back here in VIOC in action with a very special show, just like any other show. Like I tell you guys, man, this is an exciting year, because we have Tokyo 2020, which is in Japan. This year is Olympics. So we have Olympics coming up in just a couple of months. I remember, well, a year ago we was like, yeah, man, Olympics are around the corner, but no, it's really coming. It's literally coming this summer here, and we have, well, we should have a good amount of qualifications from our Virgin Island national teams. So as we get the qualifiers, I'll have them on the show, and we could be able to talk to them and see how their experience is going on the road to Tokyo. But today, guess what? Today we got a very special guest. We have an Olympian from our last Olympics, which is back in Rio 2020. And I think today's show gonna be pretty cool. So, like I said, this is VIOC in action. This is your number one stop place for all the Olympic Committee, our Olympian athletes, our national athletes, whatever the news is, whatever's going on. This is your one stop shop for for our Virgin Island national athletes information. So today's show, we have a special guest. Like I said, I kind of excited today because this is like the first show of the new year. Like we really in 2020, and we both started out perfectly right. So what else best way to start it off? Like start it off in the water, cause that's how the thing to go. So we have special guest Caylee Watson. She's a swimmer for our national team from the swimming association. Mrs. Watson, let me hear you, Mrs. Watson. You hear me there?
Yes,
All
I can hear
right, all
you.
right. There you go, there you go. So how's everything?
Everything's good, I was just in St. Croix and I for 3 weeks, which was really nice, and now I'm back in school in Washington D.C. But I think I brought the warm weather. It was like 80 degrees here yesterday.
See, that's a good thing because I too. Well, yeah, that's right. We met in Saint Croix. It was great that we was there doing the carnival. So cruising carnival, you cannot go wrong with that at all.
No, not at
Um,
all.
so wait, so since this is my first time hearing from you, or at least meeting you, I'm pretty sure some of the other locals probably don't even know who you are. So we're gonna start it off just saying, who is Mrs. Watson? So where are you from?
Well, I was born in Philadelphia, and
Okay.
then I moved to St. Croix when I was a young kid in 2005. I
Mm-hmm.
went to Country Day, um, and then I went to American University for my undergrad, and now I'm in law school there as well.
Okay. So we got a good track record. So let me say, moving down to the Virgin Islands as a youth, how was that experience? Because you literally move into like a brand new place where you like leaving all the big buildings in the states, and then you
Yeah.
come down and you realize like the biggest building is probably like four stories, maybe 3 stories. So how was that?
I at first, I came in the summer, so I was a young kid with no friends in the summer, and then school started back up, and it was fantastic. I love growing up in St. Croix. You never. I've never. I'm still best friends with all the friends that I made my first year.
Yeah.
First year of fifth grade, I'm still friends with all those people. They're like my family. I played a lot of sports. I played soccer all year round, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
The weather makes that easy, but I loved it. I loved growing up there.
See, that's why I always tell people like the Virgin Islands is a good place to train because, well, outside of our winter sports athletes, because we have a couple. Well, it's always sunny in the Virgin Islands, and the weather is great, average 86 degrees all year, and you get to come down. We have, well, especially in St. Croix, space. We got space for everything. So pick your sport, and it's space for it to happen. Now, we might not have a lot of people involved into those particular sports, but we definitely have it as a great place to train. And
That's true.
so let me see. So wait, so you are a swimmer. So how
hmm
did you even get into swimming? When did you get into swimming?
I was kind of old. I was 12.
Oh, you're a late
I
bloomer, man.
Yeah, I was old for swimmers. Swimmers usually start when they're like 6.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
no, I was a soccer player. I played basketball. I played a bunch of different sports, and my mom was like, "I want you to do this for me. Just join the team, so I know that you can swim well, and I don't have to worry about you when you're at the beach or, doing anything like that." So I joined, and I got good pretty quickly. So I just kind of stuck to it, and I knew that swimming's a really good sport to do from the islands, just because it's a time. It's based off your
It's
time.
based
So
off time, right?
so I knew that it made sense. I guess if I wanted to do a sport in college, it made sense to stick with swimming if I was good at it, because I knew that it's easier to be recruited in a sport like swimming than soccer or something like that.
See, so you have the same idea or theory that I have because I myself ran track and field, and we call it an individual sport, but I think it's a team
Yeah.
sport because everybody does their part. And my thing was the only person you have on your team is the time or distance. So you yourself have to put in the hard work to particularly qualify for these next events or whatever track meets. I mean, on swim meets that you want to go to.
Mhm.
So every and especially being on St. Croix, it's like the talent is what the talent is. So we don't have many people coming in from the outside that where we could pretty much give us some competition. So
Right.
when you say okay, well you gotta do 100. I think you did the 100-meter backstroke.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so 100-meter backstroke. What's the average time in that?
What's the what time in it? I'm sorry.
Your average time. What's a good average time in a 100-meter backstroke?
For who? For a world class athlete or
For let's just say a college athlete.
for a college athlete? Okay. So in college they actually swim yards.
Okay.
And it's a little bit, so the times are a little different than like what I swam at the Olympics.
Okay.
But a good time would be probably like, I would say between D3 and D1, a minute is like an average decent time for a
Okay.
100 back.
So we got 60 seconds, right? So that's college. So ideally, when you get into the elite, which is FINA, I'm assuming FINA is where you
Yeah.
guys qualify. So in FINA, you will want to get under 60 seconds. So your time now is like, okay, let me see if I get to 55 seconds and possibly 50 seconds. So whatever time, so what's Olympic time now?
So, well, okay, so that the 60 seconds is like the yards time. I think that would convert to like, I don't know, maybe a 110, 112, 100
Okay.
meter time.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, like, I think the Olympic qualifying time is like a 103 or something like that. 102, 103.
All right, so you pretty much have to, from college to professional, you want to go 10 seconds faster. So you want to get
I
at
mean,
least
yeah,
closer. All right.
definitely. And
So,
those people, people in college, they are like the people who swim in American colleges. Like a big majority do go that fast. Like there's probably like there's. I mean, the U.S. is full of tons of fast people who all go very quick times. But there's so many people that swim that you have people who also go like 120 in college swimming.
hmm but here what? Your benefit came in because you're from the Virgin Islands. So, as
Correct.
well as those athletes that have to compete against each other in the States to get on the team, you was like, what? All I gotta do is swim what? 110 or one? Man, I good man.
Well, yeah, I had to go faster than 110, and
Well,
that's like a good enough to swim in college. I,
okay,
I
so
went a 105, and
one
that
flat.
was decent enough.
Okay, see, and but that's the part that I like to explain to a lot of our young athletes is that in the Virgin Islands, yes, we're still US, but represent the Virgin Island flag. And there's not a lot of competitors here, so you got a really good chance of making it to the Olympics or Pan American Games or the World Championship game because your competition is lower. You
Yeah,
don't have the
absolutely.
no. You still are your competition low, but you still have to perform at an elite timing or elite speed. So, but you don't have that much people that could beat you out. And the person that you find
Exactly.
on
Yeah.
your country that can beat you out, you guys are gonna be the best training partners ever because you guys gonna go against each other, and he's like you guys gonna make each other better.
Yeah, no, and exactly, and it kind of makes sense too. Like I know before I went to college, we have great facilities and everything, but we don't have the competition that they have in the states. Not just from not just looking at it as, oh, I need to beat that person to go to the Olympics, but also like competition is a really good thing. It's really good it makes people faster. So we don't really have that element in, especially as you're younger. I had to travel to Puerto Rico to get that. I had to travel to the States to get that kind of competition. So it makes sense that it's a little easier, especially with resources and things like that too. I mean, they
Hmm.
have incredible things in the States that, you know, tons of really new equipment and things like that we don't always have access to on the island. So it does it makes I appreciate that we have our own Olympic team.
Nah, that's good because so as you just mentioned, we don't have much here in the Virgin Islands. But even for you to still be able to qualify with not having all the great facilities and equipment that they have in the states. So imagine if you grew up at a national training center, which where's the swimming national training center? Is that in
Colorado.
Colorado, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, cause Sands. Remember Sands? That's his name, right?
Yeah,
Sands is
yeah, Sonny's, yeah.
yeah. He go to Denver. I think he go to Denver State or I forgot what school he go to. But we'll have him back
Oh,
on the show.
Adriel, yeah, yeah, yeah. He goes to Denver. He has nice facilities.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So he's from here, and he gets to train there. Was like, oh my goodness, like man, I'm in the best of the best. But
Yeah.
imagine those other athletes that's here that don't have the opportunity that goes into some of those facilities. They literally got like a pool, an ocean, and it's like, okay, I gotta go
Yeah.
here, and this is how it is, and they're gonna dig deep, and that's what I think. That's the beauty part of. I'm not saying that I don't mind to be in a nice facility and get all the great training, but when it kind of worth, I think it feel like you just tried that much harder because you just had a harder time to get to where you're at, and it make it
Yeah.
worthwhile, you know.
It takes a lot of grit and mental strength because, I mean, when I got to college, it was so much easier to like just train because you have the people around you and just the motivation of and the energy coming off of your teammates and of course, like I love my teammates in the VI, but I'm the only girl my age who was training at that time, So like, it's hard. It's hard. Not. I had to race, people who don't necessarily swim the same things as me and don't
Hmm.
necessarily go the same times as me, and aren't even really that close in age range. Like I think the next person below me was like 4 years younger than me.
Yep,
So
a
it's
whole
just
different age group. Hmm.
right. So it is harder in that respect.
You see, so that is difficult, but I think that gives you a different mental part of training because it's like, man, like if I don't have the competition here, so now for you have to challenge against that girl that was 4 years younger than you, you'll have to give her a head start of like 20 meters.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the
But
opposite if we're doing different events. But yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah. No,
so
makes sense.
so but that's a great concept to like, okay, well, we don't have it, but she can become you in 20 meters, and now you're like, okay, if I catch her, I'm on point. If I don't catch her, then I work harder.
Exactly.
And we same thing with me. As I was a jumper and runner. Um, well, you'll as running, you run 100 meters. You already running a whole second faster than everybody. A second is like 10 meters. Um, you literally have to put people a whole 30 steps in front of you and like, all right, well, on your mark, get set, and just go. And it's like, but that's how you had to train. I spent a lot of
Yeah.
my early college back home days coming back home to St. Croix on complex and racing against middle schoolers and high school kids and putting them 40 meters in front of me. But that's what I had to do.
Yeah, you make it work. You make it
You
work. You
got
come
it.
up with really clever things and you
Oh
make it work.
man, I'm telling you that. And but I think that was fun because I would always go back to school, and they was like, "Man, Hunt, like, how did you get so like? How are you able to do this?" I'm like, "Man, you guys have no idea." Like, I would hope for one of the kids when I was in college to come back home to St. Croix and see me train. I don't think they could
Yeah.
be able to make it. You know.
I brought some people down actually one time, and they were like, I don't know if they were surprised or just excited, but they were definitely. I don't think they expected like our training facilities, or just like how I grew up. It was easier for them to understand why when I got to college everything was so different for me.
So let me ask you a question though, because a lot of times when you leave something so hard and you go something so easy or easier, then your hard work start to reduce a little bit. So now you get there, then you stop working as hard because now you like, well, I'm gonna just fit in with everybody. Did that happen to you too?
So for me, kind of. So I got to college, right,
Mm-hmm.
and every I we didn't train as much in back home as we did in college. So it was like, I would say 10 to 15 more hours a week of training.
Oh yeah, that's a
I
whole different.
Yeah, I was just, oh my gosh, it was so difficult for me, especially the first month, and doing that on top of school. I told myself, I was like, I'm going to give and it was D1 training. So, I mean, I could expect that. But I was really just perplexed by it all. So I told myself, just my goal is going to be to make the conference team, and that's going to be my goal. And if I essentially just did everything right at practice, and I surprised myself. I not only made the conference team, but I was able to be like one of the best performers on the team. I dropped, I think, like 6 seconds my first year.
Oh wow.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I dropped a ton of time just my first year, and without changing anything except for the additional yardage. And then, okay, well, I changed my stroke, but like by not doing anything extra, it was just the college aspect of it all.
Right. So it's funny because I just tell people if you just become bigger, stronger, faster, or just training the real basics, that's already going to make you a better athlete anyway. Like
Right.
you don't really necessarily have to. I'm not saying that you shouldn't change some things, but if you just do the basics, the very fundamentals of it, that you are going to become a better athlete. I heard everybody that came on the show that went from high school to college because they went to the weight room or start training more,
Mm-hmm.
everything just started to drop. And I was like, yeah, you didn't even learn any new techniques or anything. It was
No.
just base training.
Right.
You
And then,
know?
of course, like the technique changes as you go on. Like my sophomore year, I didn't just have that fresh energy of being a freshman, and it wasn't as easy. I had to put in a little more thought into everything. I really focused on changing up my technique so I didn't get injured, and so I could be more efficient. In the weight room, I stepped it up. It wasn't just about showing up to practice and like making it through the grueling schedule. It was about
Mm-hmm.
like, well, how can I make myself good, like really good here?
See, but I think that's because you came from an area. So that's, I always think, so when you come from an area like the Virgin Islands, right? And then you get to those places, like you have so much more to offer, and you could become more disciplined than
Yes.
some of the other people that's there. Although I'm not saying that the other teammates is not as disciplined, but it's something very unique and special about literally being from a small island in the middle of nowhere, and you
Yeah.
go into the mainland and it's like, yeah, like I'm gonna come here. Like you just start doing stuff that's like, what? I didn't know I had this inside of me. Like no, like you just got the urge to push, to want more,
Right.
and become, because it's like, oh shoot, like you actually figured out like, oh, I could actually do this, like for real. Yeah.
I had the exact same thoughts. It's so funny you say that. And I've thought about this a lot, and I think it comes from the difference between like athletes from the VI and athletes from the States. I think there's a lot of expectation from athletes in the States that like things are going to just happen. They're just going to happen for them. They've always had nice facilities. They've always had access to great coaches. They've always had, you know, the places to eat right after practice, just like right
Oh
next to them. I don't
man.
know, just things like that, but
What?
little things. And like we come in and we haven't really had access to all of those things. So we don't really
Mm-hmm.
expect everything to come easy to us. We know that there has to be like some grit and some like lots of effort and mental like strength to get through it. So I think we do put in that extra effort that I can honestly say I don't really see from a lot of I
Nah.
didn't really see as much from my teammates.
Hey, I'm not saying that. It sounds like you're saying that they're more privileged, but I'm just saying I'm. That's all I'm hearing. So
That's
teammates out
not.
there, huh?
Yeah, it's not really what I mean. Yeah, I don't want to like say,
No,
but
but
I
it's
don't mean it as a,
I don't
you know.
right, not in a negative way, but it is
Yeah,
it really is like that. And just not in your sport, in my sport, in all this in soccer and basketball, in team sport, you just find out when you're an individual leaving the Virgin Islands. Or I can vouch for the Caribbean because all my Caribbean athletes or teammates, when I was in school, we all was the best. Like we
yeah,
all worked much more harder because we just know like what man, we never had none of this stuff. What you mean? Like,
yeah,
in St. Croix, as soon as 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock hit, ain't no place to go eat. And then in the
yeah.
States, you like, what? All this thing 24 hours? What you mean? Like, ah, man, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. I mean,
So,
even just like access to the showers, like we used to like after practice we would shower like with the hose off outside
you see,
versus
and
like
that
a
was normal.
beautiful locker room.
Yeah, you like, oh my goodness, like this not wait, this not a hotel, right? Like, nah, is this a spa? Nah, this is just a
Yeah.
locker room, man. But I tell you what, man, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back in VIOC action, talking to Miss Watson about her experience as a Virgin Island swimmer. All right. Hey, welcome back to VIOC in action. Happy New Year's to everybody. I'm going to keep on saying it again because this is 2020. So glad to hear and see from everybody. And if I didn't say it already, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. And good, happy New Year's 2020. We live in the building with your boy, Mr. Ras Books, better known as Mr. Leon Hunt. One time for the one time, can't cool, can't quench. Mrs. Watson.